When we're connected to our own body, having more self-awareness means we have more self-respect. We have more respect for others. We have more compassion, and we have more empathy.
Join Edwin Frondozo on the Business Leadership Podcast every week for a unique program featuring insights and actionable items from the world's most successful business leaders. Hear firsthand the exclusive interviews and personal journeys on how today's transformational leaders made it to the top.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, biz leaders. On this episode of the Business Leadership Podcast, I sit down with Marie Bodine to discuss breathing, cold therapy, and how to delete stress within seconds. Marie is an inner peace coach, a level 2 certified Wim Hof method instructor, a Spartan athlete, and a passionate advocate for mental wellness. She has committed her life to deliver anxious, stressed out people incredible focus, unshakable inner peace, and deep self-love. In our conversation, we discuss how to challenge yourself to help yourself grow as a business leader, how breathing exercises can take out the ego and self-centeredness, which allows us to be aware, pivot, and adjust in difficult situations. And we also discuss how getting your sleep cycle down can be key to having a more productive output. This episode is brought to you by Slingshot Communications, the cloud phone service that helps you 100x your business. So here we go. Welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast, Marie.
How are you? I'm really glad to be here, Edwin. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm super excited to talk about your work, your journey, and everything you're creating and doing in life. But Marie, if you could, I guess just start off, if you could introduce yourself to the listeners today, people who actually, you know what, just share what you do when you're not leading business leaders, creators, and up-leveling their lives.
Yeah, my own time, right? What does Marie do for Marie? Well, there's so much technology, new technology and science and research coming out now with health, mindset, how technology is affecting the human body, what's happening with that, how we're responding to, stress, a little bit of stress here and there. Anybody stressed out a little bit? So, there's always new things that are coming out, new science on sleep. I just love to learn about what's really happening. I find the ways that we have access to learning more about what's going on inside ourselves, the faster it gets pumped out. I've got some favorite scientists that I study. I also like getting out in the sunshine, nature, getting back to moving my body. The little things to me mean the most. So I just like simple pleasures, being with friends, challenging myself always, stretching myself a little bit. That's what I do when I'm not helping other people do the same. I kind of live my practice.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, and speaking about your practice, that's where I want to get to, and it's super fascinating. I know you and I have known each other for a while, and I've experienced your work as well. Not everything, but you are a practitioner of the Wim Hof methodology. So for those who are listening and maybe don't even know what Wim Hof is, can you quickly explain, introduce, let us know what it is, and then my follow-up question to that is like, why or what made you seek out and to do this yourself?
Yeah, why get into ice water? Why do that? Why get so uncomfortable? Why would you do that when you could just stay in bed in a nice, warm, soft, cushy bed on a Sunday morning? Why are we getting out doing all these things? So yeah, that's right. Thanks. I'm a Wim Hof Method Level 2 certified instructor. And what does that mean? It means that we can help people delete stress and get a lot stronger from the inside out using structured breath practices, mindset, and gradual cold exposure. That's pretty much it. So we breathe, we learn how to harness the power of breathing, and then we learn to create more resilience in the system and our minds with gradual cold exposure. Now, it doesn't have to be ice baths, everybody. And Edwin, it doesn't have to be a cold shower. If you live outside in a temperate climate that has different seasons, just spend a little bit less time gradually out in colder temperatures. And what does that do anyway? It creates more resilience and more hormesis is, I guess, the word that a lot of people like to use right now, which is short amounts of intense stress. That's positive. That actually makes you stronger. So we really do consider this an exercise. When you look at the physiology around exercise, many of the facets of this practice hinge off of directly exercise principles. So it's breathing exercise. Cold exposure is also considered an exercise because it's a vasoconstrictor. So if you believe in exercise, then you can believe in the Wim Hof method, and you can believe that breathing does something physiologically to your blood, your brain, and your digestive system. And so does cold. So, that's what I do. That's what I do. That's what I help people learn.
Yeah. And it's such a fascinating for myself. I remember when I discovered the Wim Hof method, or the Iceman himself, I was just fascinated, like how people could, like you said, put themselves through these extremities, I guess. And just my curiosity piqued up, right? It's like, how could someone or people able to create that discipline? And what's very interesting is, for me, I remember the first time looking at it and not experiencing it, but just reading about it, I didn't even realize it all started as like to get into the gradual, like how you really make sure you say gradual, starts with breathing, right? It's because it's almost like shock therapy. It's like, oh, look at this person go into a thing. But there's a lot, Marie, there's a lot that happens before you see someone dunk themselves in to an ice bath, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I call the ice bath the money shot. The money shot is the ice bath on Instagram. It's on social media. That's what we kind of like to highlight because it's so out of the norm for most people. It's a shocking image, really, because it's not something that we have direct access to every day. Most people, not even in nature. I think which is why now it's so important to reconsider these practices, is because we're not using this. It's not part of our everyday life. When for many, many people, tribes, and cultures, it used to be. We didn't have indoor heat always. We didn't have houses with doors and locks always. So the physiology that we have still wants to experience short bouts of extreme stimulus. As I mentioned before, exercise is one of those things. Lifting heavy things we all understand why lifting something heavy for a really short amount of time is going to make us stronger. Well, cold does the same thing. The breathing exercises help prep us for having a better, more fun time in the cold. The actual, and if you go to the website, wimhofmethod.com, you'll be able to access all that science. There's also a YouTube page, Wim Hof Method official YouTube page that has over 2 million subscribers now. You can check out some of the animated science clips too that help explain from a much deeper, more deeply than we could do it here, but a science explanation that helps people understand what really happens inside the blood and the brain when we front load that much oxygen in a very specific, controlled way. We are really recalibrating the entire adrenal system, and the adrenal system is one of the systems that can really get out of control, to cause a lot of undue stress in the system. And it actually stress does create a lot of oxidants in the body. And what does that do? Well, it ages you for sure. It destroys your sex life, gives you wrinkles, and it doesn't help you digest your food or help you think when you're actually trying to work. So if nobody ever did an ice bath, or if nobody ever took a cold shower, we want to help people understand why they would want to start learning about hypoxic breathing if they're healthy enough to do that. We can talk about that later if you want to. And then also how you would be able to do it the safest, because there's something I really want to stress here before we go any further talking about anything at all. There's something I want to help people really kind of open their minds to. There's a minimum effective dose to pretty much anything: food, sleep, exercise, walking, sun. There's a minimum effective dose for air. There's a minimum effective dose for hot saunas and for cold. So when we look at cold in that concept, in that way, we get to look at, it doesn't have to be what someone else is doing. And how can I develop this practice so that it works in my life? Like, I don't really care what anyone else is doing. And when my cold practice is very personal, it's very intimate, actually. And a lot of people say, like, how long do you stay in the cold? Well, we used to say something like that in the 90s, and it was called, like, how much do you bench, bro? Like, it was. Yeah. You don't really ask people that question. It's not something that, like, really matters because it's a very personal practice. And again, minimum effective dose means what's the minimum amount of gradual cold exposure that I can have that's going to give me the most bang for my time. Same with breathing, same, like, as I said, with exercise and food and everything else. And when we understand what those are, then we can create a really beautiful practice and make it really work for us, make it very time efficient, make it very cost efficient, and then just get the most of the benefits out so that we can just leave the rest. And of course we can explore. I mean, we can always change our protocols. But if you understand what the minimum is, then you have a lot more room to play.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's so fascinating. And I mean, you shared so much there, Marie, and we'll definitely try to get into some of them a bit deeper. But, just for the listeners out there, it's a practice, and it's a developed practice. It's something that you may or may not want to experience, but there is benefits, as you mentioned, and even when you go down to the molecular level. But for those who are thinking about, this is great, ice bath, but what does this mean to me as a business leader, an entrepreneur, a creator who is looking to improve maybe my lifestyle, or how do I improve my flow, my focus, so that I'm producing better as well? Like, can you talk about, I know you could get into the science, Marie, but how does a practice like this, cold showers and breathing, really allow, myself included, increase my output or my levels of happiness? I
love that. Okay, so we all, from time to time, tend to avoid something that's uncomfortable. I can think of a few things right now that I want to avoid. But, when you keep avoiding things, when you keep avoiding discomfort and you keep chasing pleasure, you're rewiring your brain for, I don't want to say the word weakness, because that's not really the word that I want to use. It's just the first word that's coming to mind. But you're for sure you're not taking responsibility. For sure you're not exploring all the feelings and moments that you can have that's presented to you in your life. And for sure, when you're not challenging yourself, you're not growing. That's for sure. If you're always looking for the easy way to do something, it may not be the most effective way to take you to the next level of your business or your personal growth. There are so many people I know that are practicing these breath exercises and cold exposure because they know physiologically it takes them to calm and focus really, really quickly. Why? It's because we're resetting the hormonal system after those two practices are finished. So your focus is different. Your digestion is going to be different. You're pumping oxygen to every single part of your brain as opposed to just a couple of different parts when you're either in fight or flight or when you're in high focus task thinking, which is prefrontal cortex. When we're getting oxygen to all of the brain, you're really using your entire body. And if for a task during the day, I'd rather use all of my body efficiently than overuse one part of my body inefficiently. So that's one way. I think another way is when we really have a calm mind and a calm body, we're able to course correct quickly without resisting. When we're really not calm, we have more of a propensity to hold our position without being flexible and wanting to protect that position, even if the position isn't going to take, let's just say for an example, the group farther faster. If we're in a meeting and we're tired and we're also feeling defensive because we haven't really given ourselves self-love and we're in stress hormones, we don't want to entertain new ideas and we don't want to entertain ideas that aren't ours. So breathing in cold water, I'll just say specifically breathing exercises, takes that egoic self-centeredness out of the picture so that we can be a lot more flexible. We can pivot more quickly. We can be way more creative. That's obviously proven because that's in the blood. We can see that. And then we can also be open to other people's ideas and not take them personally when things change. So there isn't one aspect of my career, other my clients' careers that wouldn't benefit when you look at breathing in that way.
Yeah, 100%. So when we talk about breathing technique, and I've worked with you to more on the introductory level, because breathing, I understand someone who can relate to continually improving myself personally, professionally. I've done a lot of self-work, personal development work, and also physical and inward works. But I also realized, and I shared this with you, Marie, in the past, is like, I never worked on breathing. Even though we all breathe without thinking, but if there's this not conscious exercise of maximizing this God-given function we have, we're operating on minimum. Would that be right? In terms of what we're actually doing, like you said, with getting the blood right to every part of your brain?
There's a huge opportunity that's being that's missed, I would say. Now, if we're breathing already and we're not thinking about breathing, then we're actually not using a big aspect of power for sure. I think the big challenge that has been happening for quite a while is people aren't thinking at all anyway. They're reacting and they're not pausing and they're not reflecting. They're not thinking about what's going to happen 5 minutes from now after that thing comes out of their mouth, those words or that action, pressing send or not answering that call. I think people are, again, when we're in protective mode, we don't have an opportunity to think about the cause and effect of these things. When we're connected to our own body, let's just say our own body, we'll get to feelings in a minute, but when we're connected to our own body, having more self-awareness means we have more self-respect. We have more respect for others, we have more compassion, and we have more empathy. So there's not one of those things that I just mentioned that wouldn't help people work better together, or someone who's an entrepreneur have a more streamlined business. So sure, we could say that doing a breath exercise would be great, but after we're done, there's 23 and another 3/4 hours of the day that we can also think about what our body is doing. So it's kind of like, when you have 30 windows open on your laptop and then you go meditate and then you go back to like 30 open windows on your laptop. I mean, wouldn't the question be, why do you have all this junk going on your computer? Close some windows. Focus on one thing, go to the next. Don't have like all your options open. Don't feel like you're going to be, lose out on things. When we start approaching the day like I've got to win, I've got to be the best, I've got to beat everyone else, I've got to beat myself from yesterday. It's like, we're not even acknowledging how far we've come. And we're not acknowledging our own inherent value, because if your output, I know I'm saying a lot here. If your output hinges on your value, then you're gonna lose at some point, and it's just it's fallacy.
Yeah, no, 100%, and I totally agree with you. And I guess for the benefit of those listening, and when we talk about breath work, I'd love it if possible, because I know there's a lot of things out there. There's workshops, there's virtual workshops that you also host, but those who are like really keen on like, what could I do today? Because yes, breathing is something that I've been thinking about. It's been the missing link in my life. Marie, what can I do today when I press stop on this podcast? Or what resources could I share to even just to tap into it, and just to stand on the top of the the iceberg of this breathing technique? And then followed by that is like, if you could share maybe some of the challenges you had when you started that journey, right? Because sometimes we, as people who've been practitioners for so long, we make it sound so easy, but there are challenges, right?
Yeah.
And there are some hiccups, and no, we've been there, right?
Very true. When people are done today, there's a few things they can do. They can jump on the Wim Hof Method app and take a guided breath journey, which is really cool. I still use those. They can go on YouTube and look up something like box breathing, because box breathing is a completely different technique that doesn't rely on hypoxic holds, which any person with a health condition, any age, can recalibrate their brain and their heart through their vagus nerve through box breathing. That's a slow nose inhale for 4, and then we're holding for 4. Then we're exhaling out the mouth for 4, and then we're resting again for 4. That's a beautiful, beautiful recalibration without hitting any of the stress, the cortisol, or anything else that the hypoxic holds hit. And then again, you can jump on my website, mariebodine.com. There's an inner peace portal where you can listen to some audio meditations. Then we get together once a month and do a Zoom and really get into, the live and a question and answer. But what we could do even sooner than that, if you put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly, and you take a nose inhale and you feel your belly expand before your heart does, that means you're starting to access your diaphragm. And that's where we really want to start drawing our breath from. We did that as babies, and now as adults, we want to get back to that if we're not already doing that. Because if we're starting to initiate every breath every day from our collarbone or our shoulders or our upper chest, our body perceives that as we're already stressed. There's something wrong that we need to find, and we're already in a sympathetic state, which shuts off our immune building skills and our digestion and our creativity and our listening skills right away anyway. So I would just say learn how to breathe from your diaphragm, and you're already like halfway there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And all the resources that you're sharing, Marie, if you're interested, just open up the show notes below. We'll have all the links listed there. Definitely take a moment, even press pause and do that breath exercise that Marie just did. We invite you to do that. It's just something that it takes, like Marie said, a moment. It could take a moment just to recollaborate. There's my tongue twister from talking too much today, Marie. But yeah, it's great. It's something that I'm also looking at, as I mentioned before, in terms of a way to uplevel myself, my conscious self, and to be my best self, right? Maria, I just want to shift when it comes to leadership and things that you're doing and you're growing in your life, because, we talk a lot about how you provide these type of guidance for, business leaders, entrepreneurs, creators, anyone who's interested in doing that. But I'm curious, what are you currently doing personally to allow yourself to level up, to improve, whether it's in the business sense or even in your personal life?
Yeah, I love that. So, I'm going deeper in my own personal practices. It's funny because sometimes I used to think that adding more practices was something I wanted to do. But now I really realize that going deeper on the practices that I already have put in place is where I really want to be. Like, can I brag about how great of a sleep I had last night? Not really.
100%. I want to hear about this sleep you had.
No, I can't last night. But I can start telling people about how I'm starting to crush it at sleep. Of course, it's not brag worthy to our culture. But at the end of the day, sleep is one of the most incredible hidden talents that anyone can have. If you've got your sleep down, you're actually going to be repairing your body more. You just have so much more energy. And what's coming out with the scientists that study these things, it's mind blowing. It's actually almost more important than going to the gym, sleeping. It's crazy. It's crazy how important sleep is. So I love the fact that I'm starting to entertain having decent sleeps before, 11 p.m., sleeps before midnight for sure. So my, brain can get, cleaned out and power washed with all that, glymph fluid in my body. My body wants to clean itself out, so I might as well just give it that time. And, and I think just respecting the cellular processes that my body has, regardless of what my egoic mind thinks. We all work on schedules, and our body has certain clocks hardwired into them that they prefer to do certain things. It's humming in the background the whole time, wanting to do all these really beautiful things for us. And if we allow these things to happen, then we can have a more deeply powerful relationship with our body and live a half decent long life with some decent quality of life. Because I don't want to be here if I'm, hooked up to tubes and wires. I just don't want to do that. It's not really, to me, that's not a great quality of life. If I'm living 30 or 40 years and I'm on life support, it's not really something that I really want to do. And do I have a say in that? Yeah, for sure. It's lifestyle for sure. So I want to sleep well. I want to hydrate well. I want to have a beautiful relationship with not only this planet, but all the other planets that are in the universe. Like, what's out there?
Yeah.
What's out there? And if we think that these things are just like out there and we're like over here, that's not the case. We're all here together in one big blobby soup that we don't even really quite, know what it is yet. So let's get curious and let's invite it into our lives to see how it could contribute to what we're doing. So people, for sure, random acts of kindness on a regular basis. That's something that's like so easy and so meaningful for me. Sleeping well, moving my body, trying to find some really clean food, meditating, getting connected to all those things that I just mentioned, quieting the mind, like not thinking, right? Because we're thinking all the time. Can we think less? Because that really creates a lot of also cellular garbage in our system that needs to be cleaned out. Too much thinking oxidizes the body for sure. Creates a lot of oxidants. And loving myself as I am and loving more people, more strangers. Can I love the people that I'm angry at more? That's a challenge. So yeah, no new things, just more of the basics.
No, and I love that because we're in a world of constant new solutions that will answer this. And especially a lot of people who listen to this podcast and people who are maybe new to it, there are practices that we've tried or there are things that we've done, but maybe we've never worked on the discipline to continue, right? So you could keep looking for something new, but if you can't stick with it, then you're in this cycle. So I love that in terms of just go deep. It may not be ice baths, it could be something else, but stick with it, do it better, and think inwards. I love that so much. Marie, I love this, and I always love connecting with you. I always learn something new from you. You always have this new stuff to share, and it's always great to have you. But before we end, I'd love it if you could, possibly, and you gave so much already, so it might be really overwhelming, but maybe a final thought, maybe one thing that you could recommend to those who are listening today.
Yeah, I think if you really want to up your game in life, whether it's at work or whether it's at home or whether it's with your own relationship with yourself, I think it's allowing yourself to continue to grow. We always think we have to know it all, and we always think that we have to be perfect. And when things don't go perfectly, then there's a self-judgment or a self-criticism. And then we hinge that on our value. And I just wish people would be able to remind themselves or to remember that they have a very high inherent value that they were born with that never ever changes. It never changes with how much money they make. It never changes with what they do or what they don't do. Other people might see it that way, but that's other people's stories. And I think as soon as we start changing our value in relation to our output, we're inviting judgment, we're inviting unhappiness, we're inviting shame and guilt, and that is not how successful people think, and that's not how successful people run a company. So we spend a lot of time on quantifying success. But if we don't understand our own inherent value system and how we would like to show up in every moment, whether it's successful, quote, successful or not successful, then we're exposing ourselves to a fake failure. It's a fake, it's not true. Failure really isn't true. You're really learning. And the most successful people know that. The most successful people know that you've really got to go far out there. You've got to go far out there to take those intelligent risks to grow. And when you don't get the result that you had hoped for, you recalibrate, come back around, and you try it again. And persistence will always bring you something really beautiful, even if it's unexpected. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep trying, and forget about what the haters say. Forget about the people that are criticizing. Believe in yourself no matter what, and you will get there. And that's how successful people think. Keep for sure focusing on your foundation. If you don't have a solid foundation, your house is going to crumble no matter how many times you renovate the bathroom and the living room. You just need to have a solid foundation. So water yourself regularly. Give yourself sunshine. Feed yourself. Rest. And then move your body so that your system can actually work better for you, because your body wants to love you back anyway. So let's create a more solid relationship with ourselves. Success, success, success all the way around.
Amazing. With the mic drop, Marie. I guess to close, if you could share us where we could find more information about you. And I know you already told us the website, but we'll definitely put it in the links before. Or anything else you want to share with us today.
I'm traveling now all over Canada and soon to be North America and other countries, bringing gratitude, mindset, inner peace, breathing, and gradual cold exposure to all the people, moms, executives, all the people that just want to stress out a lot less. They want to learn how to get that edge so that they could be happier for longer and worry about less nonsense. So if you go to my website, mariebodine.com, you can send me an email there. You can check out some one-on-one opportunities that you might have. If you want to work together with me one-on-one, we get results really, really quickly. There's some online stuff that's a little bit longer, some courses. And then again, the Inner Peace Portal gives people access to my voice 24/7. Because I'm not live 24/7, but if you want to access my messages for you, you can do that too. And then we can find more ways to help get you to happy faster, because you don't have to live a life of stress and worry and self-doubt. There's a lot of self-doubt that's going on right now about the future. And I want everyone here listening to this show today, and thank you, Edwin, for having me here, to feel better about where they are, because where they are is the only real thing that exists. So send me a message, and I'll be happy to connect with you and see what we can do to get you there.
Amazing. Marie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us on the Business Leadership Podcast.
Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
That's it, Biz Leaders. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Business Leadership Podcast. This was episode number 177 with Marie Bodine. For more information about Marie, her programs, and other resources that we shared and discussed, go to thebusinessleadership.com/177. Or, of course, click or slide into the show notes directly in the app that you're currently listening to. If you haven't done so yet, please give the show a follow, rate, and leave a review, as it actually helps the podcast reach other business leaders like you. This episode was brought to you by Slingshot Communications, the business leaders preferred cloud phone service. What I really like is that I'm able to expand, I'm able to grow 100x by allowing the systems in place transform my business. I have the ability to have a dedicated business SMS that has changed the game for me. I contact my clients, team members, stakeholders via text message, and then I turn it off during off hours that allow me to be in the present when I am with my family, friends, and people I truly care about. To learn more, please go to thebusinessleadership.com/SMS. Until next time, do your best and have a 100x day.
Thank you for listening to the Business Leadership Podcast at thebusinessleadership.com.